Today, we do a detailed deep dive into exactly how player progression works, and we evaluate some high potential young superstars from the beginning of their career all the way to them becoming the best players in the world. Stay tuned. Hey guys, today we're going to discuss one of the topics that I get asked about the most. And that really is what happens to a player from the beginning of their career all the way to them becoming a superstar, being at the top of their game. So I'll get right into it. I selected 3 players that I believe are high potential players: Aguilar, IHATTAREN, and Martinelli. Each of these guys should end up somewhere between 87 and in the 90s. Aguilar is targeted to be about 88 or 89 at the peak of his career. IHATTAREN is targeted to be about 91 at the peak of his career. And Martinelli is targeted to be 89 at the peak of his career. And so for each of these players, we're going to track their development from the start of the game all the way through to the peak of their careers until we can see the dip. So first I'll go through the contracts that I used to sign each of these players. Now I generally maxed the salary out and the offer out so that I guaranteed I could get the player, but this will give you an idea of how much these players cost so you understand what we're working. So Aguilar costed me $340,000 and had an annual salary of $273,000 a year. This guy is a steal. Now he's pretty low from a player rating standpoint, starting at 67, which is really a player that you don't want to start on your team, but it's important to know that he's 17 years old, and this will mean that we get a lot of growth potential out of this guy. All right, as we move on to IHATTAREN, you'll see that he's significantly more expensive. I had to pay almost $21 million for this guy, and I had to pay him almost $2 million in salary. Now again, I maxed this out, but you're probably gonna have to pay similar. So these would be the prices I believe you would expect to pay. Now this guy has a ton of potential as well. Obviously, he starts at 18, so a little bit older than Aguilar, but still a really long way to go. And lastly, we move to Martinelli. Everybody knows who Martinelli is. A really good young prospect from Arsenal, 76 overall rated. I had to pay almost $25 million for him and about $1.5 million in salary. So again, fairly expensive, but not crazy expensive. He's also 19, so of the 3, he is the oldest, only by a year. But all 3 of these guys are right at the beginning of their careers, and all of them have huge growth potential. So I'll go over how and where I'm playing these guys first, and kind of show you the starting team I put around them, mostly because I really need to win. And so it's really important that I don't get fired just from simming. So I'm actually going to have to play some of these games and actually try and win and stay up so that I can track the player progression for a long enough period of time. Now, most of the players that you see on here, I'm loaning. I have not purchased, but you'll be able to see the team I use as I go through the analysis. So you see a lot of these players change year over year, but it's going to be a fairly strong team, especially as some of the younger players that I bring in over time start to get better, and you'll be able to see that. So I started playing Martinelli at center forward because I had Sancho, and I figured in a lot of cases I would use Martinelli as a striker. It's important to know that after the first couple games, I actually moved Martinelli to be a left winger. So that's really his listed position, and that's the position that I played him in. So even though you see here, he's showing as a center forward, for the remainder of the career, past the first 5 or so games, he played in the left midfield position that's currently occupied by Son. IHATTAREN always keeps that midfield spot as the attacking midfielder. I never change him out of that spot for the entirety of all of the seasons that I play, so that's exactly where he'll stay. And lastly, Aguilar always plays right back for his entire career. I don't move him at all, so he's consistently the starting right back. And that's really important. Each of these players starts every game they're available for, and they're listed as the starters. And I do believe that that has an impact on their overall growth. So this is the formation that I stick with throughout all of this analysis, and the positions that I've explained are the positions that they'll play in throughout their entire careers, with the other players around them changing from year to year. All right, now let's go into the deep dive for each of the players and their progression from teenagers to superstars. So let's start with Martinelli. So when the game begins, he's a right-footed left winger. He can play striker and he can play left midfield. He's Brazilian and he has no inspire skills. So no dribble through, low pass, lofted pass. He's 76 rated. His market value after I bought him went from 22 to almost 28 million. And some of his key offensive stats, he's got 75 offensive awareness, 78 dribbling, 75 finishing, 88 speed, 86 acceleration, 80 bounce. He's got a weak foot of 3, and again, he's 19 years old. On his progression chart, it looks looks like between 19 and 21, he's going to jump from 76 to about 79. So that's the progression we're looking for. Now, as Martinelli turns 20, the first difference that you see is he went from having 0 Inspire to having 1 star on dribble through. So that's something he picked up purely through natural progression, playing and starting. You now see he has 77 offensive awareness, 79 dribbling, 77 finishing, 89 speed, 87 acceleration, 81 bounce, and 78 stamina. And this puts him at an overall rating of 79. That's 3 points more than he had when he was 19. So 3 points in a year is actually pretty significant. For all the analysis I've done, 3 points is actually really solid. Now, as we move from 20 into 21, what we see is an immediate jump from 79 to 81 in his overall rating. There is no increase in his dribble through, so he still has 1 star there, but he does have some good stat boosts from the previous year. 79 offensive awareness, 76 ball control, 80 dribbling. He's also got a speed rating of 90, an acceleration rating of 88, and his bounce is 82, which makes him really good on the dribble. Outside of that, what's interesting is he went from a star player level 1 to a star player level 3, which means that his team role is starting to change. And it looks like that took about 2 years to start to really happen. Now, at 81 rated, he's pretty solid. You can start this guy. He can play well, he can take on players, he can do the job of that left winger or left midfielder, and you can actually use him. He's very usable. So, as we move from 21 to 22, now's where the real change begins. So we've got a 3-point jump from 81 to 84. We've also got 2 points in dribble through for his Inspire skill now. So that's really good. Players are going to get out of his way when he starts to run towards them, which makes him that much more dangerous when you're using him as a player. If we look at his stats, he's now got 82 offensive awareness, 78 ball control, 83 dribbling. His low pass is now at 76. His finishing is at 80, and he's got a speed rating of 92 and an acceleration of 91. Pair that with a balance of 84 and a stamina rating of 81, you've got yourself a pretty dangerous player at this point. This guy to use feels very good. He's very agile, very responsive. This is a good player at 22 that you can do some real damage with. Now, he's also made the team role change from a star player to a smart player, and that's going to improve his ability to impact other players on and off the field through his team role. So honestly, if he stopped growing at this point at 22 years old, you still get yourself a really, really good player. But now let's look at what happens when he turns 23. So the first thing you're going to notice is there wasn't a huge amount of growth here. He went from 84 at 22 to 85 at 23. His Inspire stays the same with 2 stars in dribble through. He's got a boost in offensive awareness of 84. You start to see some of those other stats start to pad out now. You know, his bounce is at 85, his stamina is at 81, his speed and acceleration don't really change, but he's got 78 kicking power, 81 finishing, 80 ball control, 83 dribbling, tight possession at 75. So now starting to become more of that finesse player with the speed that's already built in. His team role is also now at smart player level 2, which means that you're going to see some more growth soon as his role starts to change. And from a growth curve perspective, you're starting to see flatten out now. So this is where you kind of think he's reached close to what his top potential is at 23 years old with that 85 rating. So let's see what happens as we move into him being 24. So when he turns 24, again, you get a really small bump. He went from 85 to 86, so just a +1 in his overall rating. His Inspire stays the same, so this is the type of player he's going to be now. If you look at his abilities, again, he's improved a little in offensive awareness. He's now got 85, ball control 82, dribbling 84, tight possession, low pass 75 and 78. His finishing's now 82. He's got 92 speed, 92 acceleration, 86 bounce, so a little improvement there, and 81 stamina, so no improvement with his stamina. What is significant to note here is his weak foot went from 3 to 4, so now he has the maximum weak foot, which means he can really use either foot and be pretty accurate. So that's actually pretty significant. That's going to improve his ability to pass, his ability to dribble, and really just makes him a little more dangerous, ultimately allowing him to shoot from either foot. Now, the other thing to note here is he went from a smart player level 2 to a key player. So now he has a much larger impact on the team, and you can use him in different ways from a team role perspective. This is actually pretty significant if you use team role. He also will influence the growth curve of other players now. So that key player role is actually pretty important. Again, as we look towards the growth curve in the development sheet, you now see him gaining a little more skill very slowly. So maybe 1 point over the next year as we start to move forward. That's kind of what it looked like from a growth curve. But let's see what happens. So as we move into a 25-year-old Martinelli, we've got a nice surprise with him going from 86 to 88, which is a pretty significant jump at that level. His Inspire stays the same, but you've got a boost on offensive awareness at 87, ball control of 84, dribbling now at 85, tight possession at 76, So really, really good on the ball. Finishing at 83, pretty dangerous in the box. You're not seeing any improvement on speed. He's staying at 92 and 92, but his kicking power is now 80. Balance is 86. Stamina is still 81. Now with that weak foot of 4, again, he's really still pretty dangerous. Now we don't see really any improvement elsewhere, but now what you've got is a 25-year-old who's really at the top of his game. Very, very dangerous again, and very, very usable. A really good player to use. So as we move into a 26-year-old Martinelli, we now see that he got a little bump. He's gone from 88 to 89. His Inspire stays the same. On his abilities, I feel like he actually gets a good amount of boost here. He's now got 88 defensive awareness, which makes him really good off the ball. So he's a player that you don't have to just use. Now he's really dangerous when he's controlled by the computer. And he was dangerous before, but now he's really dangerous. He's approaching pretty high standard being used by the computer. Couple that with the 86 ball control, 86 dribbling, and his speed 92, which hasn't changed in a couple of years, but has maintained, makes him really dangerous. He's also now got 87 balance, which again allows him to use his body because of his speed, just makes him a nightmare to handle. That also, along with the fact that he has a weak foot of 4, means that you can go either direction with him. It's going to be really hard to predict which way he's going to go from a defensive perspective, and that just means you have a lot more chance of beating your man without busting skills. You can just use his speed and his agility and a little bit of misdirection or a quick feint, sending the defender the wrong way and then doing a step over or a spin or something like that. This is a really solid player at this skill level. Now outside of that, you don't really see much else change. He's still a key player. What is interesting though is at 26, on his development sheet, the growth curve actually shows that he's already started to decline. Now we'll see what happens here. This could be due to the fact that maybe he loses a little bit of pace, and for his position, pace is weighted more than, for example, passing or dribbling. But this is really interesting and kind of disappointing to see that he's hit his peak at 26 and the growth curve shows he's not going to maintain that level of skill. But let's see what happens. So as Martinelli becomes 27, here's what's really interesting. He's still 89 rated, so he gains no additional point. But if you look at his Inspire, he's gone from only having 2 stars in dribble through to now having 1 star in low pass. What I think is really interesting about this is the playstyle is changing. This is a very interesting dynamic. If we look across to his abilities, he still has really good offensive awareness at 88, ball control at 87, dribbling at 86, so he gained an extra point in ball control. His tight possession got a little better. His low pass got better at 82. His finishing got better at 74. His curl got better at 85, so now he has a legitimate curl where previously he didn't. His speed has gone down, however, very slightly at 91 from 92, but his acceleration stays the same at 92. His balance gets a little better at 88. His stamina is still 81, but I think that's really interesting that his passing has gotten better, but he's lost a little bit of speed, but he's gained that 1 star in Inspire low pass, which means that players will look for him to pass now versus just dribbling through. And that is a trait that you would expect an older player to develop. So that's kind of exciting. The other thing that's really exciting is that for the first time, his team role is Bandiera. This makes a huge difference. This pretty much impacts all aspects of his team, makes him a much better captain, allows him to have a large influence on other players' development, and allows you to just flat out win more games. It makes the game easier for you. He's not a legend yet, but he's been at the club long enough and he's made an impact at the club, so everything else at the club becomes easier while he still plays for the club. This is really significant in my opinion. Now let's remember, this took 8 years for him to get to this point. He's 27 years old. He started at the club when he was 19 and he's just now gaining this team role. But at 27, that's pretty good. You don't see many players at 27 with this type of team role. Again, when you look at his development sheet, it shows that he's about to see a dip, which means that he's going to lose some quality, lose some ability, lose some skill, but we don't know exactly what that's going to be. Last year at 26, he showed the same thing and his rating didn't go down. It really seems the only thing he lost was some of the physical attributes and he gained in some of the technical attributes. So let's see what happens when he turns 28. So at 28 years old, on paper, nothing has happened. He's 89, his Inspire skills are still the same. So at face value, absolutely nothing's changed. He didn't have that dip that we thought he was going to get based on the development chart. If we look a little more closely, however, what we do see is that although he's maintained all of his technical abilities and hasn't really gained anything, what we have seen is a drop off in speed, which is now 90, and a drop off in acceleration, which is now 91. So you can start to see at 28 years old, he's already starting to decline, which is is actually pretty surprising. You would think that even though he's a winger and relies a lot on pace, at 28 years old, he would still be in his prime. But that's not the case. He's starting to lose a step already. So this would be where I probably would start to look to offload him. He's still really good and probably going to be really good for another 3 or 4 years, but you're going to start to see slow decline for the next 3 to 4 years, and you're probably going to lose 5, 6, or 7 points across that time very slowly. And you're going to lose it in the physical attributes based on what we're seeing here. Now, if we look at team role, his team role still stays the same. So he hasn't become a legend yet. He's still a Bandiera, which is still really solid as it was last year. But now when we look at that development sheet, it just gets a little scarier. It looks like he's gonna lose at least a point next year and at least a point after that. And then by the time he's 31, it looks like the downturn's gonna be pretty significant. So you've got 3 years to make a decision on him, but you can still really use him for those 3 years if you chose to. All right. So now let's move on to our next player, IHATTAREN. So again, a quick recap here. I bought him for almost 21 million. He was 18 years old when I bought him. He is an attacking midfielder. He has no inspire skills. He's a star player level 1 from the Netherlands, and he is a creative playmaker that is left-footed. Some key stats: 79 ball control, 83 dribbling, 82 possession, 76 low pass, 79 speed, 82 acceleration, 77 balance. So even at 75, he's decent on the ball. You can probably use him, and especially in lower divisions. His weak foot is 2 and his conditioning's 4, and we'll see if those are really concerns or not. It really depends on your style of play, but a weak foot of 3 would have been much better, especially since he's left-footed. So let's remember, he's 18 when we get him. So let's take a look at what happens when IHATTAREN turns 19. So immediately we've got a boost in skill. He's gone from 75 to 77. The other thing that we see, which is very interesting, is that he's gained 1 star in low pass for his inspire. So you can already see what type of player he's going to be. Players are going to look for a ground pass or through ball whenever he's on the ball, which is great for strikers that are going to run through. Really great for the advanced striker style. As we look at his skills, now 77 offensive awareness, 81 ball control, 84 dribbling, 83 tight possession, 79 low pass, 75 lofted pass. You can see from a technical standpoint, really starting to develop very quickly, very, very usable on the ball, and very, very usable from a passing perspective. His speed has jumped up to 79, and his acceleration has jumped up to 83. That paired with a bounce of 79 and a stamina now of 75 makes him really solid. At 77, he's a really good value player. No change to his conditioning or weak foot, but if you see, it looks like there'll probably be a change coming within the next 12 months. So we can look forward to that. And then the other thing that's happened pretty quickly is he's gone from a star player level 1 to a star player level 2 over the course of a year. So that's pretty solid. The development sheet also is very encouraging for this player. Even though we only gained 2 points over the last year, the trajectory for the development sheet is pretty promising and looks like we're going to gain at least a couple points next year. So let's see what happens as IHATTAREN turns 20. Pretty significant jump. He goes from 77 to 84. That is huge for any player at any skill level. Along with that, he's also now got 1 star in dribble through. So now he's a double threat. He could dribble through and players will look for a pass, making him really dangerous as somebody in the attacking third. So if we look at his stats, he's got 80 offensive awareness, 83 ball control, but he's now got 86 dribbling, 86 tight possession, a low pass of 82, and a lofted pass of 78. Just a really good technical player. For the first time, he's got good speed and good acceleration at 80 speed and 85 acceleration. This gives us a really good ability to burst through, use his body and first step to beat defenders and midfielders, and this is actually really important for someone in his position. The other real thing to note here is that he now has a weak foot of 3. This gives us the ability to pass with either foot, to go either direction, and then to shoot with either foot as well. So this adds to how dangerous the skills that he's just developed are actually going to be on the field. If we go to team role, you'll see that he's gone from star player 2 to star player 3. So that's a really good progression year over year. So next year, we hope to see him progress into a more significant role. And then if we go to the development sheet and look at his growth curve, it's still looking pretty aggressive. So we know we're at least going to get a couple points going into next year when he turns 21. All right, so let's see what happens when he turns 21. So a little sidebar, he's also got a nickname at this point, Mr. Sunshine, which I don't know if that's what he'd want to call himself, but it's a nickname. The other thing is he made a 3-point jump. So he had a huge development last year from 19 to 20, and now he's got a pretty significant development from 20 to 21. Those 3 points have also gained him another star in low pass from an inspire perspective, which means that he becomes really dangerous as an assist maker and that creative playmaker that he's he's listed at on the field. So primarily, you can use him to now do through ball assists or low ground pass assists, or potentially run through, as he still has that 1 star in dribble through. Now let's see which abilities got boosted. So you can see offensive awareness is 83, ball control is 85, dribbling 88, tight possession 87, low pass 85, lofted pass 81. Technical ability is now in the top of the league. He is a legit technical player that can compete with any starting player in any league in the world. Mix that now with the fact that he got a little bit of acceleration. He now has 86, but he's got 83 bounce and 79 stamina. So he's gonna be a technical player, but still has an ability to burst through in certain situations. Now, no change to his weak foot. That's still a 3, which is really good, but we do see a change to his team role, which is now playmaker level 2. So that's really interesting. Playmaker gives him an ability to affect the rest of the team in a really positive way, both on and off the pitch, but he's gone not just to a level 1 playmaker, he's gone directly to a level 2. So you're seeing a huge acceleration in his impact to the team and his contribution both on and off the field from a team perspective. From a development sheet perspective, his growth curve is slowing down slightly. It's still going in the right direction, but it's just slightly slowing down. So we'll see what happens as he goes from 21 to 22. All right, so now Mr. Sunshine has gone from 84 at 21 years old to 86 at 22. I think we can all agree an 86 rated 22-year-old is pretty awesome. The other thing is he's gained an Inspire star in lofted pass, which means now he's a triple threat. He's got the dribble through, he's got the 2 stars in low pass, and now he's got a lofted pass stat, which means that players are going to be looking for over the top balls. So that could be 3 balls, that could be over the top passes, but this just gives you more options from players that will play around you, looking for different types of passes and plays and making different types of runs. So this makes everyone else better that's being controlled by the computer. If we go to his abilities, again, from a technical standpoint, he's stacked. 87 offensive awareness, 86 ball control, 89 dribbling, 88 tight possession, 87 low pass, and now 83 lofted pass. His finishing for the first time is 75, and his acceleration stays the same at 86. He does now have 85 balance, which again helps the technical side of his game. The only other thing of note here is that his injury resistance is now at a 3, when previously it was at a 2. So it means he's now really solid and is very rarely going to get injured. His conditioning also seems like he's going to experience a breakthrough next year. Now, from a team role perspective, he's progressed into a key player, which again makes him much more impactful both on and off the field and gives him additional abilities to captain the team and make an impact to other players around him, which is really, really positive. His growth curve is on the same trajectory, which means that we expect some growth, but we're probably only looking at 1 or 2 points based on the growth curve that we're seeing here. So as IHATTAREN turns 23, we again see a good jump from 86 to 88. There's no additional jump in his Inspire abilities, but he has really good solid ones as it is. From a player ability perspective, he's now got 90 offensive awareness, 88 ball control, 90 dribbling, 88 tight possession, 88 low pass, 84 lofted pass. He is a technical monster and an assist master. This guy is going to do damage to other teams at this level, and I would consider these stats absolutely elite. He's also now got 87 acceleration. Now what's interesting is we didn't see the breakthrough that we thought was going to happen on conditioning. His conditioning's still 4. I really do expect that to happen next year, but I thought it would happen this year. Now here's where the massive change has occurred. He is now a legend at the club. The benefits that a legend gives your team are just absolutely insane. If you don't know what they are, I'll probably do another video purely on team role because it's really so important, especially if you're looking to develop players. But basically, once you have a legend in your squad, you get insane benefits and their ability to captain is amazing. So this guy is now, from a team perspective, a Messi or Ronaldo level player when it comes to benefits that they're giving to other team members and giving you the ability to win games, whether you play them, coach them, or sim them. Honestly, I was a little shocked to see this on a 23-year-old player. It's just insane. As we move to the development sheet, what you're going to see again is that we predict a very slow increase in stats. He got 2 stats last year. It looks like he's probably going to get 2 stats going from 23 years old to 24 years old as well, based on the growth curve. So following that, once he's made the progression from 23 to 24, we again get some pretty surprising results. First thing you'll notice is he's gained 3 stats. He went from 88 to 91, which is crazy for a 24-year-old player. He also gained another Inspire star in dribble through. So he's he's become even more dangerous in the attacking third of the field, and players will react differently and give him space if you start to push into space while dribbling. As we take a look at his stats, again, he's increased his existing elite status. 94 offensive awareness, 90 ball control, 92 dribbling, 90 tight possession, 92 low pass, 87 lofted pass, 88 acceleration, 88 balance. This guy is absolutely elite. From a technical standpoint, there are going to be few other players in the game that are going to match up to this guy at this point. His conditioning, however, still hasn't changed from a 4 to a 5. So at this point, I don't know when it's going to happen. It looks like it's moving pretty slow, but there are no points that we're investing in it. So that's just natural progression he's experiencing. From a team role perspective, the man's already a legend. He can't get any better than that. So that's awesome, and we'll take it. And from a player development perspective, on the development sheet, what we see is, again, his growth curve is showing us that it's going to progress from year to year. However, we are seeing a point at which it seems like it's now starting to plateau. But let's remember, this guy was 75 when we started training him, and he's now 91. Even if he stopped growing right now, he would be insane value, and that is insane growth considering he's only 24. So let's see what happens as he becomes 25. So the first thing we see is he's gained 2 points. These 2 points are really significant because he was 91 and he's gained 2 points over a year, now making him 93 overall. On top of that, he's also gained another star in lofted pass from Inspire. So he now has full stars across all Inspire skills. That's crazy. He can do everything on the field, and players will play off him in a way that really no defense can defend. From a stat perspective, under abilities, we now have an offensive awareness at 97, ball control at 92, dribbling at 93, tight possession at 91, low pass at 94, and lofted pass at 89. These are Messi level skills. His acceleration's 88 and his bounce is 90. This guy is so dangerous. These abilities, honestly, for a 25-year-old player, are pretty crazy. We still have no progress on the conditioning, but it looks like his weak foot is also about to turn from 3 to 4. I expect to see that next year, but I'm not expecting to see at this point any change in the conditioning based on how slowly it's moving. Team role stays the same at legend, so we won't continue on that. It's the best you can get. From a growth curve perspective, it still looks like he's going to get a little more, which is crazy because he's 25 years old and he's already 93 rated. But let's see what happens when he becomes 26. So going from 25 to 26, we see 1 point boost in rating, which at this level from 93 to 94 is really significant. He already has max Inspire, so we don't have to worry about that. But as we move to his abilities, I said he was Messi level last year. He's just continued to add to that skill level. He's got 99 offensive awareness, which means his off the ball computer controlled stuff is going to be insane. His ball control is 93, dribbling 94, tight possession 91, low pass 96, lofted pass 91. Again, you could put him against any midfielder in the game at any point in the game, and he's going to be in the elite pack. Acceleration still 88, not gaining much there, but his bounce is now at 91, which again just makes him more of a technical beast. Now we finally see a breakthrough on the other abilities, and he now has a weak foot of 4. That is again insane. The man can now use either feet and has all these technical skills, making him super dangerous because he's got full scale Inspire, he's got all these full scale technical skills. He can dribble at you, he can pass with either foot now, he can shoot with either foot. This man is extremely dangerous, and he is a joy to use at this point. That's all I can say about it. From a team role perspective, he's still a legend, won't say any more, but now you can see on his development sheet that he's plateauing. So it looks like, based on what we're seeing from the development standpoint, we're not going to see any additional increase in skills. However, what's really interesting here is we also don't see any drop off in skills. It looks like this guy is going to be this good at least until he's 29 years old. To put that in perspective, Martinelli really looked like he only had 1 or 2 years at his peak level. This guy's going to go from 26 to potentially 30, all playing at his peak level because he has technical ability and he's not focused on physical ability. That's pretty crazy to get a player at this level playing for that long with that ability. So with that being said, I did track him for 1 more year. What was interesting here is even though his growth curve doesn't show anything falling off, he did actually lose a star from 26 to 27 in dribble through, which means ultimately that his play style is changing. And we saw this with Martinelli as well. We saw it the opposite way with Martinelli. He went from a more physical player to a more technical player. What we're seeing here is the physical ability to dribble through and burst through is is now being scaled down. Nothing else seems to have changed from an Inspire perspective. If we take a look at the stats, we still have 99 offensive awareness, 93 ball control, 94 dribbling, 92 tight possession, 97 low pass, 93 lofted pass. But we see he's lost a little acceleration at 87 and he's gained a little bounce at 92. So you can see the transition. At 27 years old, he's becoming less physical and more technical. This again is a little surprising because he's 27. You would think his physical peak still has another 2 years to come. But what we're seeing in the game is around 27 or 28 years old, the physical abilities seem to be scaled back and the technical abilities seem to take over. So if you have a player that's very reliant on physical abilities, it looks like you're going to start to see challenges with those physical abilities around 27, 28, and 29 years old. So just keep that in mind for any players that are heavily reliant on physical ability. There's no change on the weak foot. He has that maxed out already, and there's no change on conditioning and injury resistance. So we'll move on. Again, he's already a legend, so he's maxed out there. And we look at the growth curve, and it looks like we now have visibility to him at 30 years old. And based on what we're seeing, it looks like he's going to maintain that 94 rating at least until he's 30, which again is pretty amazing. As a special mention, I did want to go back and show you that at one point in his career, from about the age of 25, IHATTAREN was genuinely the best player in the game. Ronaldo and Messi had already retired, so their regens were in the game. And the only other player, honestly, that got close were players that were either on my team that had grown, like Sancho, Martinelli, Buffon, or players like Mbappe, who was still an original player in the game versus a regen. If you look at this list of players here, Dani Alves, Sancho, Marcelo, they were either on my team and I developed them, or they were regens. And Buffon's was crazy because he's really young and he developed so quickly year over year. But I wanted to show you this so you could see that as an outfield player, he was by far the best player in the game by the time he was 25. So lastly, we're going to talk about Aguilar. Aguilar started off at 17 and he was rated 67. I got him for under 400,000 and his salary was under 300,000. An absolute steal. He's a right-footed player. He had no Inspire skills. He's Peruvian, and his playstyle is offensive fullback. He was a youth prospect level 1 when I brought him in. From an ability standpoint, really not much there. 76 aggression, 80 speed, 77 acceleration, 72 ball winning. Really doesn't have any stats of note. He does have 5 conditioning, but his weak foot is 2 and his injury resistance is 2. From a growth curve perspective, there's actually not much there. He doesn't look like he's going to shoot up. It's really hard to tell if this player is going to be good or not, but my understanding is he does have a high potential and he's really young at 17. So let's see what happens as we develop him. So going from 17 to 18, you can already see that he's going to be good. He's gained 4 stat points, taking him from 67 to 71. As an 18-year-old, that's pretty solid. He's also now got a speed of 82, an acceleration of 79, and he's got a little bit of stamina at 75. From a defensive standpoint, he now has a defensive awareness of 70 and ball winning at 75. It's not great, but it's usable. Nothing else has changed from an ability standpoint. What we do see, however, is his team role is now protege level 3. What this means is that he's going to get a crazy boost on his development. So he gets a bonus basically while he's a protege on learning new skills and developing as a player. His development sheet also now shows us that that trajectory is actually looking really, really good. This guy's going to grow pretty significantly over the next couple of years. So with that, let's move a year forward and take a look at Aguilar when he's 19. So we see again, he went from 71 to 74. That's a stat increase of 3 points. He hasn't received any Inspire skills yet, but he's still only 19, which is really young. His speed's now 84, his acceleration's 80, his stamina's 77. So we've now got somebody who we can actually really use. And when we take a look at the defensive stats, we can see he's got 72 defensive awareness, 76 ball winning. His weak foot went from 2 to 3, which really helps from a passing, more offensive standpoint. So that's really positive. His team role has actually taken a huge leap forward. Instead of being a protege, he's now a leader, and he's a level 2 leader at that, which means that he's seen a significant boost in his ability to not only influence the game and his team members in the game, but also other players in the team when it comes to things like training, etc. So this is pretty significant. When we look at his development sheet, that trajectory is still looking really, really good. So we expect to continue to see this type of progress from him. And remember, he's only 19. When we think about what we saw with Martinelli, Martinelli started when he was 19. So we hope to see equal or better progression from this point forward. As Aguilar Aguilar goes from 19 to 20, we have something interesting that happens. He gets a nickname. He's now called Clockwork. Not entirely sure what that means, but I guess it's positive. He gained 3 stat points, which allows us to start seeing some real progression within his abilities. He's now got a decent lofted pass at 71 for putting in crosses. He's got speed at 85, acceleration at 81, jumping at 75, physical contact at 76, bounce at 73, stamina at 80. So you're starting to see some of those skills round out so he can actually become a decent defender. As we look at the pure defensive abilities, we have 74 defensive awareness, 77 ball winning, and 79 aggression. Not great, but good enough to start to make an impact on the game. We have an injury resistance now at 3, which means he's not going to get injured hardly ever, and everything else stays the same. From a team role perspective, he's now a leader level 3, so no change in the actual team role, but a change in the level of the team role from 2 to 3. And then again, when we look at that development sheet, we see a similar progression that we expect over next year that we got from the 2 previous years. So at 20, really solid growth. We've taken a player from 67 to 77 over 3 years, which is good. As Aguilar becomes 21, we see a couple developments. The first being that he gained 4 skill points. So we went from 77 to 81. That's pretty significant. That's a huge amount of growth. The other thing is he got a new nickname, so he's doing something right. When we take a look at where those skill points have manifested themselves in abilities, we see he's now got 88 speed, 84 acceleration, which means he can now keep up with some of the faster strikers, not the elite strikers, but some of the faster ones. He's got 78 jump, 79 physical contact, 76 bounce, and 83 stamina. So he's starting to get some really good physical skills, giving him the ability to muscle people off the ball and become more of a defensive nuisance. His defensive awareness is now 77 and his ball winning 79, which again help those other physical abilities, and everything else basically stays the same from an ability standpoint. As we look to team role, he's now gone from a leader to a level 2 workhorse, which again gives him more impact and influence during the game, which again is really positive. And as we look to his development sheet, what we see is the development slowing down a little, but we're still going to see some positive growth all the way through until he's 24. So 21 is a really solid year for this guy. As Aguilar moves to become 22, it gets a little interesting. So the previous years, we've seen pretty significant growth. This year we go from 81 to 82. So really very little growth considering the previous growth he's had. A little disappointing, to be honest. He's gained no Inspire skills, but when we look at that +1 rating that he's got, it's actually pretty interesting. He's now got a 75 lofted pass, 89 speed, and 85 acceleration, and 85 stamina, along with 79 jumping, 81 physical contact, and 78 bounce, giving him really good physical abilities. Not elite yet, but very good. He's also got 78 defensive awareness and 81 ball winning, which again are respectable. Nothing else on the abilities tab changes, but he's decent. He's a little better than he was last year, which reflects the rating. From a team roles perspective, what is really interesting is he's now a superstar. So he has actually made a significant leap forward, again improving his ability to affect the on-field performances of his teammates and off-field affect the training of other players. This is still pretty significant. When we move to development sheet, what we see is again, we're going to see some improvement. It looks like we're going to see a little bump. Hopefully that's a lot more than I think it's going to be, but we're not going to see any more crazy growth from this player. It looks like from 22 to 25, we're going to see some slow, steady growth. So as we move from 22 to 23, we see that we've gained 2 skill points. So we've gone from 82 to 84, but we've also gained the dribble through skill in Inspire. Now, he is an offensive fullback, so I guess that does make a little bit of a difference. So it just means other players will get out of his way to a certain extent, which I guess is good if you're going to push forward with him a lot. Now, those 2 points actually did a lot for this guy. He's got a little bit of ball control now at 75, a lofted pass at 77, speed at 91, acceleration at 86, jumping at 80, physical contact at 82, bounce at 79, and stamina at 87. He legit is a player now. If we pair that up with his defensive awareness now at 80 and his ball winning 82, he's actually really solid. Now, as we move to team role, he's still a superstar, so we've seen no progression there, and I'm not sure where he's going to go from there. But as we look at the development sheet, we still see that it looks like at least through 26, we're going to see a steady increase in his abilities. So I'm excited to see what happens there. As we move from 23 to 24, we see another +2 gain in his abilities. So we went from 84 now to 86. No additional points in Inspire, so he doesn't gain anything from that perspective. But those 2 additional points have manifested themselves in now a 78 lofted pass. He has 91 speed, 87 acceleration, 80 jumping, 84 physical contact, 81 bounce, and 88 stamina. So he's a player you can leave out all game, can run up and down, and challenge the opposition. His defensive awareness is 82, ball winning 83, so very similar to last year, but still really solid. The team role hasn't changed any, so he's still a superstar. Nothing new to report there, and it looks like we're really starting to see a plateau on his development sheet. So nothing spectacular. He hasn't gained crazy skills. He's getting a little bit across the board, making him a more balanced player. A lot of the skills that are in red are getting a couple points each time he improves. But as far as his banner skills, they look like they're mostly staying the same. Nothing crazy, just a solid player. So now moving from 24 to 25, we see an increase of 1 from a skill perspective, taking us from 86 to 87. No additional inspire skills. And when we look at his abilities, everything is almost the same. He's got an extra point in lofted pass. He's got an extra point in stamina, and his physical contact is now 85. But mostly the offensive stats and physical stats are the same. Where he does get a little boost is he's now got 84 defensive awareness and 84 ball winning, which make him really, really good. He's very close to being close to one of the top players in this position. He's also now got a weak foot of 4, which again is really, really good for a player who's going to be offensive, whip balls in, try and beat their man with his pace. So that's really solid. And he's also got now an injury resistance of 3. So this is where it looks like we're seeing that one ability boost that actually will make a significant difference on the field with how he feels when you cut and turn and pass from angles where he has to use his weak foot. It also makes sure that he's always going to be on the field with that injury resistance of 3. So at 25 years old, we have a really solid player, but now we have something a little more. We have a bandiera under team role. So this is actually pretty significant. Again, as with the other players, it means he has a huge impact both on the field and off the field, and he contributes a lot to the team and just makes winning easier. So this is actually a huge breakthrough and a huge jump as far as his contribution and ability to influence other people's performance along with his own. Another interesting thing on the development sheet, what we see is it looks like he's about to see just a little bit of growth from 25 to 26, but then it looks like we're already projecting a dip as we go into 27 and 28. Again, this is just really strange. It looks like once players hit 27, they start losing the physical ability, which is why I'm assuming there's a dip here, because Aguilar is pretty heavily reliant on his physical ability. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but that's what I believe is happening here based on what we're seeing from the other players that we've looked at so far. So going from 25 to 26, we see a 1-point upgrade. He goes from 87 to 88. Nothing else changes on the player info tab. As we look at his skills, we do see some technical ability upgrade. Now 76 ball control, 75 dribbling, 80 lofted pass, 73 low pass. His speed and acceleration stay the same at 91 and 87 respectively, but his jumps 81, physical contact 86, balance is 83, and stamina 90. So a little bit of upgrades across the board there, but nothing significant. Still keeping him really competitive, but giving him a little more technical skill. As we go to his defensive abilities, now we're getting somewhere. We're seeing 86 defensive awareness, 85 ball winning. That's really solid. He's fast enough, he's got enough technical skill, and now he's got what's getting close to some pretty good to elite defensive skills as a right back that is offensive. So you got to remember he's an offensive right back. He's not a defensive right back. So what that means is he can run up and down, he can whip crosses in, but this means he can also defend pretty well. So that +1 actually makes a pretty significant difference. As we look to team role, again, there's been no change there, but there was a significant change last year as he got into that bandiera role, and that makes an impact across the board for his entire team. And finally, when we look at his growth curve, 88's where he's going to max out. He's not going to get any better than that. I think we'd initially projected him at 88 or 89, so we're right around there, but it looks like he will be able to maintain that from 26 through 29, and then based on what we've seen from other players, he's probably going to see some significant drop off in his physical ability, which is going to significantly affect his overall rating. Probably a 6 to 8 point decline from 30 to 32 or 33. All right, so that is all of the analysis that I did on this. I tried to give you guys a range of different players and showed you how players develop, what key things change from year to year. Now again, these players started for the whole time. I played them in good teams, and more importantly, the teams that I played them in won. So we won a lot of championships. You can see that year over year, I actually played the game as if I was playing my own league. So I got the right players in, I continued to grow the team, build the skill sets around these players, and these players ended up becoming the leaders for my team, with IHATTAREN by far being my best defensive player. So if you want to see more of these, let me know. I apologize for this one being really long, but I think you can see we needed to go through each of these elements in detail. Let me know if there's any other players you want to see. Happy to do a follow-up from this on very specific players. And I'm also thinking about doing a series where I take a look at players like IHATTAREN who have a large growth potential over the course of their career. Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate it, guys. See you later.
Hey guys, I'm new to YouTube, so if you like the content, please give me a like. If you like the topics, please subscribe, and always leave a comment if you can. Thanks, guys.